Today we're talking Bridesmaids, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Oh my gosh, I love this scene so much. Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today, like I said, we're talking Bridesmaids. First, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Lilith. Lilith is one of my Patreon members who chose Bridesmaids, and I'm so glad she did because I love this movie so much, and it gave me a reason to watch it for the 10 millionth time. And yeah, I'm so excited to talk about it. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about what happens, of course, in the movies, behind the scenes stuff, all the stuff I could dig up about it. I love this movie so much, and I hope you do too. So let's jump right into this. Okay, so Bridesmaids, God, I love this movie so much. Came out in 2011. Of course, it's rated R. Such a good movie. It has a criminally low rating on IMDb, 6.8 out of 10. I think that's wrong. They need to go back and rate that. I will be giving it a 10. I love this movie so much. Okay, so I know you all have seen it. I know in my gut that that's true, but just in case you're the one person who hasn't, of course, it's directed by, I never say his name right. Is it Paul Feig? I think is his name. Feig, Paul Feig. Stars Kristen Wiig as Annie, Maya Rudolph as Lillian. You got Rose, is it Byrne? Byrne as Helen. So many big stars, so many cameos. I just love this so much. You got Rebel Wilson in there. Matt Lucas is from, Great British Bake Off. He's hilarious in there. Wendi McLendon from, Reno 911 is in there. Ellie Kemper's in there. Oh my, I mean, just so many stars. Of course, Melissa McCarthy is Megan. So fun. So much great behind the scenes stuff I found out. So again, I just can't wait to dive into this. But just in case you're the one person who hasn't watched it, pause this, go watch it, come back. We'll talk. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to put out there before we get into this is, it's hard to explain, but I watched the unrated version this time, which was very funny. It only had like 6 extra minutes of content, but they came in the form of like 30 extra seconds here or extra minute there, that sort of thing. And so it was pretty funny. But then when I went to photograph it, I photographed the regular version. I say that to say there's going to be times where I talk about scenes that may not have been in the regular version. So if you're like, what are you talking about, Jen? It's because I watched the unrated version when I took my notes. And so sometimes the stuff I'm talking about won't exactly match the pictures, but who cares? You get the idea. Let's go. Okay, this is the first shot of the movie. This is Ted's house. If you're like, hey, Jen, who's Ted? Ted is this douchebag guy that's played by, Jon Hamm. I was like, why did I just blank on his name? Jon Hamm, who is, he even calls himself her F buddy. He's basically banging Annie, a.k.a. Kristen Wiig. By the way, I think in my notes, I just call them by their real name. So if I say Kristen, I'm talking about the character Annie. If I'm talking about character Annie, I'm talking about Kristen Wiig. Anyway, so they're F buddies. They're just hookups, but then he's totally rude to her. We'll get into that. But this is the first shot of the movie. Does this house look familiar? Anybody? This is the same exterior used as Kelly Taylor's house from Beverly Hills 90210. Isn't that cool? I just love learning behind the scenes stuff like this. There's lots to this movie. So the movie starts off with a bang. Get what I did there? This is Ted. These are the faces that Ted makes while Annie's on top of him. So Ted is a douchebag, right? And he's basically just using Annie, for sex. And he says things to her like, I can't believe you slept over. I don't know how to say this, but I'm ready for you to go now. Just terrible things, right? Making her feel terrible. Kristen Wiig, I gotta give her all the credit in the world. She plays this role so flawlessly. She makes this movie for me. Her, and I love Chris O'Dowd. We'll get to him. Chris O'Dowd plays the police officer later on, but anyway. So Kristen Wiig, so funny. She has to climb over his fence to escape here. And then we go to a scene, and guess who's in it? Terry Crews. I'm a big Brooklyn Nine-Nine fan. There's Terry Crews. Terry Crews is leading some sort of fitness club in the park, and it's so funny because Kristen Wiig, Maya Rudolph, hiding behind a tree, basically doing all the same moves as him, and he has to chase them out of the park. We see this very cute scene at this diner where they're lamenting over their love lives or lack thereof. Now, we find out Maya Rudolph actually has a serious boyfriend, but he's been acting really weird with her, so she's afraid he's going to break up with her. He keeps calling her dude. They have a very touching scene here where they rub chocolate on their teeth and they're smiling at each other, and it's... God, I love this movie so much. It brings me glee to even talk about. So let's talk Maya Rudolph for a second. There she is with stuff on her teeth. She was actually pregnant during the filming of this movie. And if you look closely, you can actually see a little bit of a bump. They tried to put belts and things to draw your eye up away from the bump, but there is a bump there. Kristen Wiig, again, Annie in this movie, this is her first starring role. And damn, she did such a good job in it. So she had a bakery. Her business was called Cake Baby. They actually walk by it quickly, and there's an out of business sign on it. So she's working at a jewelry store. She's telling couples that are looking at engagement rings like, is this a good idea? You really can't trust anybody. So her life's in the pooper. She goes home to this horrible roommate. Now, let me just tell you, Rebel Wilson cracks me up in this role. So her actual roommate here is Matt Lucas, the guy from Great British Bake Off. This is his sister in the movie, Rebel Wilson, and she gets this tattoo that gets infected. It's disgusting. So they are roommates, and of course Rebel is his sister. She's there on visa. She's just staying with them rent-free, and Kristen Wiig's kind of over it. It's a funny dynamic. Now, a funny behind-the-scenes thing is, in real life, Matt Lucas and Rebel Wilson were roommates. So kind of a funny thing that they brought into the movie here. Side note, there's just a lot of funny lines that happen really quickly. What's happening is Rebel Wilson got a tattoo that got infected. Well, it's because she just found a random guy who offered her free tattoo in his van. No wonder it got infected, right? Annie tells her to put frozen peas on it, so Rebel Wilson takes that very literally and just starts dumping peas on her back. She's like, no, the bag. Put the bag on your back. Okay, let's go over to Kristen Wiig. She goes over to Maya's house. See, again, I'm calling them their real names. And we find out she has gotten engaged. Maya Rudolph has gotten engaged. Maya Rudolph's character's name is Lillian. And again, I just kept calling her Maya in her notes, so I apologize for that. But Lillian... she is engaged. So that gets the ball rolling for the movie, right? It's all about who's going to be bridesmaids. Let's meet them all. Of course, Annie is her longtime friend. She's supposed to be maid of honor here. So hilarity ensues from here. Okay. Then we get to go to Annie's house. And this is her mother, played by Jill Clayburgh. So if she looks familiar, well, that's because she's been in literally everything. She was in Nip Tuck, The Practice. I mean, you talk about Running with Scissors, Dirty Sexy Money, Love and Other Drugs, so many, Starting Over, so many movies. Unfortunately, she passed away after filming this movie. It was before it even came to theaters, unfortunately. So that breaks my heart because I really liked her. I like a lot of things she's been in, but she plays Annie's mom, and she's literally credited as Annie's mom. She doesn't have a name. She's just mom, so there's mom. Okay, so from here we go to the engagement party. So this is Annie's shitty car, and the reason I bring it up is because this shitty car actually has a pretty big role in the movie. To me, some of the funniest scenes happen in this shitty car, as well as an airplane that comes up later. But yeah, so here's Annie driving her shitty car that has no working taillights, among many other problems. It's hilarious to see her, park this car, and this is where we get to meet Helen. God, I love Helen so much. Helen is played by Rose Byrne. I hope I'm saying it right. Is it Byrne? Brian? Love her so much. Okay, so here's, of course, Maya Rudolph, and it's her engagement party. This palatial mansion in Helen's house. We get to meet all the bridesmaids, right? So we get to meet Lillian's cousin Rita here, played by Wendi McCarthy, I think is her name. We get to meet her newlywed, very naive coworker Becca, and we get to meet Doug, who is Lillian's fiance, Doug's sister, played by Melissa McCarthy. The sister's name is Megan. And then, of course, we get to meet the very wealthy, very gorgeous Helen, who is Doug's boss's trophy wife, basically. Gorgeous woman, so much fun. But here's Melissa McCarthy. Holy crap. This was her breakout role, if you ask me. I mean, I loved her on Gilmore Girls. I've loved her in so many things. But this role, I just remember laughing at this. It just really cracked me up. But, okay, so here is Helen. Gorgeous, right? This dress is incredible. She's statuesque. I've just always loved her so much. One of my all-time favorite movies is actually Spy, which stars Rose, I'm going to avoid her last name, and Melissa McCarthy opposite each other, and they're so funny in it. And if you haven't seen that one, that's another Paul Feig movie. Go watch that because it's so funny. Okay, so engagement party, hilarity ensues because it starts out, you can just see it, right? So Helen is giving this toast. Helen has only known Lillian, for a little while. They're not like longtime friends, but they seem close. I mean, she's throwing the engagement party. Well, of course, Annie is like, what the hell? I grew up with this girl. We've seen that they've been lifelong best friends. And so she goes to make a speech too, and they start one-upping each other, the speeches. And the thing that makes Annie so relatable is, I feel like it's me, where she sets out to be funny, but it's just never quite right. She just keeps messing up the speeches. She's messing everything up. It's hilarious. And then, of course, Rose comes in and Helen comes in. She's completely elegant. She's dressed like this, looks like this. She starts, I think, giving a toast in a different language, and Annie decides she needs to break into song, so Helen joins her in a song. They end up singing, and it's the most awkward, hilarious thing you've seen. So as the movie goes on, Annie and Helen they're like jealous of each other's friendship with Lillian, and they just keep becoming more and more competitive for her attention. So that's what the movie crux is, basically. Okay, so from here, Annie drives home. She's mad about Helen. She's having this yelling match with herself, which caused her to swerve her car back and forth. So she's pulled over by a police officer. Well, that officer is played by Chris O'Dowd, and if you haven't seen The IT Crowd, you're missing out. It's on Netflix. I urge you to go watch it. It's one of my favorite shows. Unfortunately, it's very short, meaning they only did a couple seasons of it, but it's so good. It's a British comedy. Go watch it. Okay, so this is where we get to meet him. He's a police officer. He is the cutest guy, and he has the greatest accent. So originally, he was going to be speaking an American accent, but because behind the scenes, the cast was also enamored with Chris O'Dowd's native Irish accent, that they decided that he should keep it. So that's why he's rocking his Irish accent here. Because I'll probably keep calling him Chris O'Dowd, I'll put here that his character's name is Nathan Rhodes. Officer Rhodes is what they call him. So he's an Irish-American Wisconsin State Patrol officer, and he lets her off without a ticket for broken taillights. They kind of have a cute banter. Turns out he's a big fan of her bakery. And very supportive. He talks about loving certain pastries that she had. Okay, so here is her Cake Baby restaurant. It's a picture that they show on the wall. We get to see behind the scenes when it's just her. She truly loves to bake. She goes out of her way to make these very ornate cupcakes and spend all this time. She only bakes one cupcake, and she ends up eating it herself. So it's sweet to see her passion, but so depressing, right? Because we know that her bakery went under, but that she truly does love baking. Okay, so from here, we find out that Lillian really wants Annie and Helen to get along, and they decide to make this, time to go meet up and play some tennis so they can try to get along. Now, Lillian is supposed to be there. Of course, she can't make it, so they end up playing tennis together. And as you can imagine, it doesn't go well. It's one funny scene after another of nailing each other in the boobs with tennis balls, and they get super competitive over this too. Okay, so back to Annie's house. Okay, guys, this is where I'm stopping this recap. I'm breaking this one up into parts. I have so much to say. I actually already recorded the whole thing and talked for just under an hour. I think it was like 50-something minutes about this movie. So this is part one. Look for part two. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, this was chosen from one of my Patreon members. So if you're interested in that, check out patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. I'm going over the original Sex and the City series over there. We're having a lot of fun. Yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.